Hi everyone, it's Modjo here, and we're back looking at Forestry and Binnie's mods again on our multiplayer server here, running DW20. I was a bit stuck today of what to do a video about, but then somebody said they got a bit stuck on when it comes to making Alvearies, not knowing the resources or the bees that you need to get those resources. So today I'm gonna go through a bit of that, and then hopefully I might show you some new bits of the base which I haven't shown you yet because I had to put some new systems in. So the first thing we're going to do is I've got this barrel here of impregnated casings, so I'm going to actually move these downstairs. They used to be in that chest over there that was on the wall that you saw floating. I think it was yesterday I did the video. Yeah, yesterday. So we're going to go and grab this barrel, and we'll... Oh, there we are. So we'll grab this and we're going to take it down to the room where I'm making frames, because that's where I've got some seed oil on the go. So I've also got a filter in my pocket ready. So down we go. I think if we just pop that there, that'll do fine. So, oh, I need a bit more cable. Hold on. Let's go and grab a bit of cable. Okay, so there we are. We've got our cable and we've got our filter, and we'll also need one of those. Actually, no, we don't need a filter. We can get away without using a filter because it's a locked barrel, so we don't need the filter in this, strictly speaking. So I'm going to put it as in and out, just in case I decide to start automating up some Alveary blocks, which is entirely possible. Saves me doing it later. So the under IO pipes are, if you wanted to put a filter in, what you do is you put that there, and then you put the item in that you wanted. So as I'm here, I'll put it there. Okay, so now if this was a chest, for example, or a machine, this is whitelisted, and this will only let in impregnated casings, but we don't need that, so we're not going to worry too much. Okay, so when you're making Alvearies, you need two things. You need the impregnated casings, and you also need something else, but I'm going to show you the impregnated casings first. Okay, and oh, we've got a rather lot of seed oil on the go there, probably because we've run out of wood. Yeah. Okay, I'll just go and grab some more wood from over here. I think I've got a bin here. There's a bit here. Oh, one, great. So I know I've got a bit down here. Oh, there's a little bit. That's enough for me to show you. Might have to build some more farms. Okay, if we go back over, is it? I think it's that one. No, it's not that one, is it? This is well, as I'm here, this is the setup I've got for making ethanol for the genetics machines. So very simple one. It was actually, I only set this up manually. I don't need to do it automated because I'd end up with a whole big huge tank full of ethanol, which I don't really need lots of. I much prefer to go and put it all into making power. So if we go down here now. Okay, so to make the impregnated casings, what you need is seed oil. You can get seed oil from crushing either seeds, which will take you a long time, or nut dew, as I do, which comes from farmed seedy comb, which comes from farmed bees, or from crushing walnuts or hazelnuts. If you get those trees pretty early on, you can get away with crushing those. So this is from a combination of crushing up seeds and of nut dew. So to make the impregnated casing, so those are the impregnated sticks. To make impregnated casing, it looks a little bit like that. So I'm just going to make those now. Okay, as easy as that. So once you've got your impregnating, that's the first step. Okay, so we'll just grab one of those, a stack of those just to use. The other thing to do then is to make these. Okay, so if I show you the It's a bit tight in here. I wish I made this area bigger, to be honest. So in here we've got a carpenter, and the carpenter is set up with, at the top we've got the royal jelly, then we've got a row of 3 planks, then we've got wax, pollen, wax. Okay. It's filled with honey, so this is actually pumping in from my honey tank down there again. I've got another tesseract on the go. This is quite a very fudged together way of feeding this. I only do this manually because things sometimes get a bit mixed up when it comes to, this can fill up with wood, and when you don't want it to fill up with wood because you might want some wax and some pollen to go into. So yeah, that's the scented panelling. You must have honey in there for it to work. Okay, so in here, oh, we've got quite a bit of scented panelling. So again, to make a Alveary block, you need to have the impregnate casing and you surround it by the scented panelling, and that gives you your own block. So if I've got 64 of that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, get 8 of those, and in here if we pop all of those in there, we end up with our Alveary block. 64 there. It takes 27 per hive, and then it's topped up with a layer of half slabs. You can also change some of these Alveary blocks so that they're doing other things. So you've got the lighting, so they'll work at night time. You've got the fan to cool them down a bit, the heater to heat them up a bit. Hydro regulator, I'm not sure what that one does actually, to be honest. I don't know if I've played with that one. The stabilizer, I believe the stabilizer allows you to put bees in, but the species won't change, so they'll just take on traits rather than species changing. Sieve, that's for pollen, and that's not all of the Alveary blocks because there's other things like fat, the frame housing, which is the one I tend to make. There it is. So the frame housing, using some electron tubes. Any block, doesn't actually matter, iron across the top, and those are the ones that you want if you want to be able to insert frames into your Alvearies. Each of my Alvearies have 3. I did have 5 because once upon a time it used to be that you could put I think it was up to 6 frames into the Alveary and you'd end up producing more. I read that on a wiki somewhere a long time ago, and I'm not entirely sure if it's true anymore, but as I wasn't able to keep up with that, I brought it down to 3 anyway, so you got those. So that's how to make the block. Now the big question was how do you actually get the stuff to make those? Now if you come outside, and I've got some true beauty styly, I've got something here's something I prepared earlier. So this is where everybody should start off when they're doing bees. So everybody knows that when you go into the wild and you find a beehive, you whack it and you end up getting some of these guys. Okay. You get these coming out of, these are meadows ones, they come out sort of like the orangey brown hives that you found in plains. These are the forest ones, which are found in sort of whitish hives, normally in forests. Okay. Any mundane bee will do, so it could be a marshy, it could be a modest, it could be any one of these, but the easiest two to do it with, in my opinion, is the forest and the meadows, because they both will work in similar biomes. The second you start mixing in another bee from a different biome or a different humidity, they start getting a bit grumpy and it gets a little bit harder to breed them. So at least if you use those two, you can stay in sort of a forest or a plains biome as we are here, and you don't have to worry so much about it. Okay. So once you've got these, one thing that you do want to make sure is, if you look at these bees, it says unknown genome. You really need to get this one, the bee ELISA, up and running as soon as you can, really, because once you've done that, you can start seeing that they're okay. Okay, that one's fine. If I go and show you some of these ones over here, It normally says if they're pristine or ignoble. I'm beginning to wonder if that's something that's changed. No. If the bee is likely to die, it's going to have a tag of ignoble stock. These are not bees you want to breed with. You don't want to have them around. They will die off eventually if you put them in a normal apiary or alveary. They're fine in bee houses, which what these guys are in. They're just these are just pollinating some trees. This is my tree braiding area, so I don't get any pollen from any other trees. So they can work in bee houses, but they're going to die off if you put them in with other ones. If you start breeding with them, that trait's going to pass down and those bees could die off. So you want to make sure that whatever bees you use, especially the drones aren't effective. That's why I couldn't see it. Drones aren't effective. Duh. Looking at the princess, if it says ignoble, you don't want it. Okay. So, if we go back to our table here, oh, and that crash is just the cat wandering in and jumping on my desk. Go away, off you go. Right, okay, so we've got our two mundane bees. You breed these two mundane bees up, you will eventually hopefully get some common bees, and these are your first bees, your first little sort of mutation that you get along the way. So you get your common bees. Once you've got your common bees and you've made them a little bit more stable, as so to speak, so you've matched up the traits and you've made sure they're pure, you're then looking at going on to put a common with another mundane bee. So again, it could be a forest or a meadows, it doesn't matter, or any other mundane bee, but that's the one you want to put together. And eventually then, when you've done that a couple of times, you'll get a cultivated drop. So the cultivated bee comes along. Once you've got your cultivated bee, you're really onto the good ones now. So you want to combine a common and a cultivated, and what that will give you is either a diligent bee or a noble bee. And now these are each of the branches. This one here is from the industrious branch, and this one's from the imperial branch. So if we look at the imperial branch first, because it's my favourite, I always get excited when I see that first noble drop, is you want to start looking at getting a noble and a cultivated together. Now the noble and the cultivated, when they come together, they will make a majestic. And it goes on, it goes without saying, by the way, you need to have a princess in here. I've just used drones because I don't have masses of these princesses lying around, whereas I do, excuse me, I do have lots of drones lying around. So yeah, obviously one of these needs to be a princess. So the noble and the cultivated make the majestic. The noble and majestic will make the imperial. Now it's the imperial bee that gives you the royal jelly that you need to be able to make that scented panelling. They also make dripping combs, and they also make, when you squeeze the dripping combs, it gives you honey and honeydew. So they're both it's a very, very useful bee. So that's how you get your royal jelly. The next then, if we go back to here, the other bee you can get is the diligent. Now the diligent is for the industrious branch. So if we look up here, diligent and a cultivated makes you an unwary. So you've got an unwary bee. Your diligent and unwary combined together will give you your industrious bee. And now your industrious bees are the ones that produce pollen clusters. Now, those are the two tricky things to get hold of. Once you've got enough of those in place, you can start making the scented panelling. And as you've seen, you actually do need a fair bit. It's going to be 27 times 8 for each alveary, and if I'm feeling particularly clever, I could possibly work that out in my head right now, but I'm not. It's a lot. You know, you're looking at around 25 times 4 will be 100. You're looking at around 200, just under 250 comb, 250 panels just to make enough for an alveary, and each panel requires a royal jelly and a pollen, 2 bits of wax, and the wood. Okay, so you do need to have these running for quite a bit before you can get enough to build your first alveary. However, once you've got the first alveary up and running, you are pretty much sorted. They are so much easier to automate. I mean, I automate these guys, but they don't produce much. I haven't experimented with seeing if frames will go in these with Ender IO. You never used to be able to automate frames with apiaries. I hope it's still the same way, because it makes all that effort into getting an Alveary pretty redundant if you can automate these. I'll have to have a play with that or something. But once you've got your first apiary, then that's when you can actually start looking at being able to do things. So let's set those guys going again, because I think I'm a bit low on. Yeah, I've taken a couple of drones out of there from yesterday, wasn't it? So that's when you've got this, and that's when you can think about the automation of it. Now I will quickly go into here and I'll show you how I automate my bees. If you're new to bees, this will be a pretty easy setup for you to understand. Once upon a time we used to have something called apiarist pipe, which was made using propolis, which you get from the stringy comb, which is filtering through there. There he goes. Okay, so we've got the industrious and the imperial bees in these two chests here, because these are the first two I managed to get running and up and going. There we are, and there's some royal jelly going through there. So what you want it to do is you used to be able to set if there was no princess but also I've got is any items in the inventory, energy pulsar, and what happens with that is it actually starts pulling it all out as it goes, rather than all in one go, which tended to overload my machines. So this way works quite nicely for me. So it's when it pulls the items out, then it goes into your filters. The red one is the one that's going back into the hive, so it's going to push your imperial drone and your princess back in. And then you've got your dripping comb and your royal jelly coming out on the blue section, which is falling back into these and going down to the centrifuges below. Now with my particular bees, like I showed you with the genetics last time, I make sure that they've got exactly the same traits of both the princess and the drone. And I also, before I put them into a factory setting, I also make sure that their fertility is low, so they're only going to produce one baby each time. If you end up having them so they're producing more than one baby, what's going to happen is that your bees are going to come out and they're going to stick into here, and then when it hits 64, those bees are going to start popping out, like I have on these ones here. You know, not necessarily a terrible thing if you've got these ones hanging around, but it is going to cause some lag for you there if you're going to be having bees popping out all over the shop. Like these guys are, it's coming up to close to 64, so I'm going to pull them out. The reason why I keep these ones running is I'm not actually making many combs from them. Every now and then I get the odd comb coming through, but I need drones to squash for DNA, so I use these ones for squashing. Was that it? Yeah, that's it. Okay, so hopefully I think I've shown you what you need to do for an Alveary. That's a very, very, very basic instruction. I appreciate that some people find it a little bit more tricky than others. Frames in Alvearies can be automated, so if you put your frame house in there, on mine I've actually got the Ender IO filtering in, so it'll take the impregnated or the proven frames. I'm actually out of proven frames at the moment because I haven't traded any villagers recently, but yeah, they go in there. And you can also change the priority on these as well, because if you've got a particular hive that you want to make sure that all it gets its impregnated frames, increase the priority on it, and then it's going to favour that particular Alveary to the others. Yeah, well, I hope that explains Alvearies a bit better. I'm Modjo, and if you've got any more questions or queries, please ask me. I'm quite enjoying doing these little mini-series at the moment, so keep me going, give me some content to talk about if you want to, otherwise I'm going to end up going on my own tangent, and people might actually want to learn something and not listen to the ramblings of me. Okay, till next time, bye!